Hi, it's Brett again. Today I'm going to give you a more detailed walkthrough of what a standard OKR journey looks like. And I'm doing this because we often see the first part, the building the OKRs, and kind of forget about the other parts. So there are kind of two waves of activity you're going to see going on. Now, on this chart, we have it listed as Q1, Q2, Q3 across the bottom. But you don't necessarily start in Q1. You could be in Q2. You could be in the middle of Q3. It doesn't matter. The starting point to the OKR journey, of course, is your strategy. And if you don't have your strategy, which we'll talk about later, we need to get that sort of formalized and cauterized first. Once we have that, the two waves of activity are, first, the effort that you and your team have to put in. Obviously, that's front end loaded as we build the OKRs, get the data, etc. The second wave is the benefit wave. And the benefit wave begins almost at the beginning and then just grows exponentially across time. Now, to get this system working, there are a series of steps, three major phases of work. And the first major phase is what we call learning OKRs. There's a lot of learning, skill building inside your organization. Now, typically, we do a benchmark survey before we start so we know where your organization's starting point is. And then the first week, that first workshop that we've been talking about, is all about building that OKR framework. So in there, we capture existing strategy, we prioritize the objectives. Through the ontology, we link it to the core activities inside the organization. And then from there, we surface the cascaded objectives and key results. So that's that first week of activity. Typically, there's a second piece of activity, which some organizations can do concurrently, but most end up doing afterwards. And that's where we begin gathering historic performance data, if you want to include that in your OKRs, along with capturing or generating existing performance targets and thresholds. That's the bulk of the work. It typically takes a week or two to get that complete. Now, the benefits that happen in that early phase are things like we get clarity on the strategy. We get clarity on leadership's priorities. We get a clear cascade down and a very accurate rendition of what each department and team does in contribution. And so people become very clear on their purpose. And of course, we generate the key results so we understand what's expected of us. Huge benefits in that in and of itself. But the major benefits come, of course, when we begin using this tool. So metaphorically, I often think of this as like, buying a better set of golf clubs. Now comes the tough part, learning how to swing them. So the third type of activity fits into what we call building a cadence of accountability. This is about the daily stand-up meetings, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly OKR meetings, in which we put the performance conversation into that ongoing conversation. And the trick here is to make those risk-free, allow issues to escalate up correctly in the organization, allow people to understand what's happening, and as we change direction, why we're changing direction, and what it means to my work. So that's that coaching that we often do, and it can extend 6, 9, 12 months, just depending on your starting point and how much support you want during that activity. Then at some point later on, what we'll do is make sure that you've institutionalized those performance habits. And we do that by doing, a follow-up survey. And the follow-up survey, of course, allows us to chart the distance you've come from before we turned on the OKRs to this new way of operating. Obviously, the ongoing effort level is considerably less at this point as we've done all the development. But each quarter, you're going to meet, refresh, and repeat. So that's what the overall OKR journey looks like. Now, it's important to note that this OKR journey is just part of what leadership's responsible for. So this, what we call the executive suite, shows you illustratively that broader representation of what leadership's responsible for. And OKRs are right down the bottom here. Now, in order to do your OKRs, as I mentioned at the beginning, we really do have to understand your strategy. and based on the strategy, how your activities, your processes, and projects help you in achieving those goals. And from there, the spin-off is we can determine the right key results and then populate OKRs. Other things that you can do with this work is we can begin to strategically assess your projects to make sure you got the right things going. And based on the processes and projects, we can begin helping you set better financial plans. In fact, we can understand the relationship between risk and reward and use the same framework to set up a risk scorecard. And of course, all of this populates the budgets, allows us to focus on better process improvement, and allows us to focus on rewards and compensation, self-managed work teams, employee engagement, and so forth. So this is the broader context of OKRs and allows you to see that once we get this work done, there's other things you can do to help drive performance ahead. Hopefully this has been informative to you and you get the broader context of what the OKRs are, what the other waves of activity are, and then finally how it fits into the broader leadership context. Feel free to give us a ring if you want to talk about this more or follow through on any of the links that you see on the screen.